Guys, our next guest needs very little introduction at this point, but for those who don't know, he is the mastermind behind City Kickboxing and had a phenomenal night in the office as both Israel Adesanya and Alex Volkanovski defended their titles in a historic international fight week. The one and only Eugene Bareman is kind enough to take a little bit of time out of his day from Las Vegas to join us. Huge, welcome back to Submission Radio, man. It's great to have you on the show, especially just hours after the historic night.
Yeah, the boys were onto it. You guys messaged me late last night. Yeah, while I was at the after party. So you guys have got the first interview, I guess. So that's the reward for being for getting in there early. So yeah, awesome, boys. Awesome to be here.
Yeah, well, kudos to you for even responding. I mean, if I was at the after party, I'd probably be doing other things than responding to us. But dude, what a night! What a night! Main event and co-main event, 2 titles defended. I know it wasn't all 3 wins, but like headlining and co-headlining International Fight Week, was this the greatest night? Well, let me start again. Was this the greatest night thus far in CKB history?
Yeah, I mean, you guys hit the nail on the head there. Like, when you have 3 guys on the card, then you take the risk of, winning 3 times or losing 3 times, et cetera, et cetera. So we got 2/3 there, but of course, you know how tight we are as a team, and if we didn't get all 3 guys there, then we came up short. But it's up there, boys. It's up there. Like the 2 champs managed to. Put 2 very good performances and defend their bout when they're headlining a card, and it's right up there.
And it's just to cut in, it wasn't just headlining a card. This wasn't some fight night in Antarctica. International Fight Week, the cream of the crop, the premiere, the WrestleMania, as Israel described it.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to get the message across to the Australia and New Zealand public, like the enormity of what went on here last night and what's going on in the combat sports at the moment with guys like Israel, Alex, the other representatives in UFC from Australia and New Zealand. Like, yeah, it's hard to get across the enormity of just exactly what we're doing over here, but it's massive for the history of our sport. It's gonna be etched in time forever, and it's hard for the people at home because they're so far removed to understand how big it is. But when you get to Vegas and you get the International Fight Week and you're headlining it, you understand how big a deal this is.
Yeah, and for people that don't know what Eugene's talking about, for all of our fans in America. In Australia and New Zealand, International Fight Week, you go, all right, this is a huge, huge event. But then when you watch all the mainstream news channels and look at all the mainstream newspapers, barely a mention of how history-breaking this whole thing really is. And if they do mention it, they might only mention it for a second and then go on to the football or some other sports. So from our perspective, of course, a huge, huge night. And we want to congratulate you, Eugene, and hopefully some of this mainstream press get their head into it and actually understand what's going on rather than just reading off a teleprompter and mispronouncing everybody's names. But let's talk about Alex Volkanovski's impeccable performance over Max Holloway, man. How would you describe that win for us?
Oh, man. I'm lost for words, man. Like, it's just, the team, me, Joe, Alex, the coaches, we talked about a masterclass, about just solidifying every round and just being convincing. I didn't know he'd be that convincing. I didn't know it would be that, like, as much as I've got to know Alex over the years, like, the guy can still have a performance like that and still leave me like gobsmacked. I'm like, wow, like, just when you think he's good and he's at his best, he just finds another level. And yeah, like what a masterclass. Like, if that's not the best pound for pound fighter in the world, then I don't know who else is.
It's incredible, man. Like the fact, I think everybody kind of had this fight 50-50 going into it, right? I mean, obviously you guys as a team, you knew things that other people didn't, but people thought, oh, it's going to be close. It wasn't close at all. I mean, I remember you telling us about the first fight, how that was a blowout. This was just another level of blowout. I wonder though, and it's crazy that Alex surprised you of all people, you know, one of the people that know him the best, and he still managed to surprise you. But now that it's in the bag, take us into it, man. What was the game plan, Huge, and why was Alex so successful and dominant against Max?
The voice. Well, tell me this. Do you think there'll be a fourth fight?
Ooh, probably not. Probably not.
I don't think so. Unless
Max Holloway moves up to lightweight.
I was gonna say,
Look,
there's an interim title somehow, somewhere.
there's definitely not going to be a fourth fight.
Let's just say the chapter's closed.
There's definitely not going to be a fourth fight. There didn't have to be a third fight, but you know, like Alex said, like he you know, Alex wanted the fight, the public wanted the fight, so he made it happen. But in saying that, I could probably talk a little bit about what went on. Look, man, like, did you guys notice one key difference between the first two fights and that fight that you guys can point out? Let me test you guys a little bit.
I'm a horrendous fight analyst.
Alex had a shaved head compared to the other two.
I'm a horrendous fight analyst. That's why we enjoy asking the questions, so people smarter than us when it comes to fight analysis can explain it to us.
We've never passed a test a day in our life, Huge. You know,
I'll leave that to you, Huge.
Now look, and I can't, and as you know, I can't take credit for all the strategy and the game plans. Like, Joe's a massive part of it. I learned so much from Joe, and then I've got all the other coaches at CKB who aren't in the corner, but they have a lot of input. I asked them for a lot of advice when it comes to Volk. And look, we did the dreaded thing that you're not meant to do in fighting, that everybody talks about. Don't do this, don't do that. But we went straight into Max's power. We shifted left constantly into Max's right. Stay away from the right. Stay away from the right is what they say. But we had a plan, and our plan was to move towards Max's power. We had our reasons for doing that. And, you know, look at what happened. Like, Alex, you can have a plan. You can have a plan to go left, go right, stand on your head, do a flip. But at the end of the day, like, if you don't have the student that has the discipline and is not very mindful of the strategy and is, you know, and it's not going to keep on it, then it means nothing. So, like, the strategy, like, is cool and everything, but you got to have the student that can execute it. And, you know, and Alex and Joe, they executed our strategies, like, to a T perfectly. And it was brilliant. It was just a brilliant masterclass. And I'll forever be proud of that fight.
Yeah, it was so impressive. How about the part where Alex tells you that his hand is broken in the corner? Take us into that bit there. When he told you guys his hand was broken, I think Nick Walshaw reported, and I'm just sort of paraphrasing here, the message from the corner was, you know, don't say that again. Kind of like, let's get back to it. But take us into that moment. What did you guys say to him? And what was that moment like when he said that to you guys in between rounds? I think that was the end of the second round, right?
You guys are sneaky. I didn't even know you. Yeah, it's amazing what you can pick up in the corner. Yeah.
You got to whisper even softer now, Huge.
Look, he looked at me and he said something to his hand, and I leant into his hand. I said, "Don't mention that bloody hand again." I said, "We can't do nothing about it now. I don't want you to mention that again." And then he knew what I meant. He knew I meant just get it evaporated completely out of your mind. And then straight away, Volk was like, yeah. And we got our message across. And nothing you can do about a broken thumb in the middle of a fight. We're in a championship fight. Everything's on the line. And like Alex, like the champion he is, with the mental fortitude that he does, didn't take heed to that. It was like the thumb didn't exist from that point onwards. So, yeah. Brilliant.
But what was going through your mind? I mean, obviously, Alex took your advice perfectly, because the next few rounds, you wouldn't even know that he had a broken hand. But and you know Alex better than anyone, so you probably expected as much. But was there a part of you that was thinking, shit, we've just had 2 phenomenal rounds. Alex is basically styling on Max, and now this has happened.
Yeah, no, look. Me and Joe asked Alex to completely ignore the hand. It was getting obviously. It was getting. He wanted to mention it. It was getting in his head a little bit, but we wanted to just completely extinguish any thoughts that broken hand can affect his performance. So we jumped on it straight away. We jumped on it very sternly, like you have to, and like you can fight with a broken thumb. It's not, like if you roll your punches properly. Roll your punches down, your thumb's never going to get hit. Okay, grappling can be quite affected by your thumb, but you can still punch with a broken thumb. Yeah, it's going to hurt, but you can still do it. And that's what happened. He extinguished it out of his mind and carried on like it didn't even exist. And that's what he needed to do to go through that little bit of adversity that he had.
I mean, if you're making a movie, it's just that little extra salt on that steak that makes that story sizzle even more. I mean, not only does he put on a performance like that, but with the broken thumb thing, it's just unbelievable. What a historic night. And Volk made a pretty clear post-fight that he deserves an immediate title shot at lightweight. Who do you think he'll be facing, though? Charles Oliveira or Islam Makhachev?
I don't know. I don't know. Whoever. I mean, Volk, when you put yourself in the position like Volk is now, he's in the same position that Israel was after he beat Paulo Costa. Like, your performances are so good. You're beating a level of guy that's so good. Like, you can do what you want. You earn the right to do whatever you want. Like, Volk, Volk's got plenty of options. He can go up to lightweight, but he's still, man, to be fair, like, Israel's starting to lap his division again, but Volk's still got some guys there, There's Yair, there's Josh, Emmett, who else is there? There's a few.
Mitchell.
There's a few good guys. There's a few good guys there that need to come through. There's the Georgian guy who coming off the defeat. There's still some very, very good contenders, some great challengers in his own division. He's cleared out some legendary fighters, but there's still some guys there that he can deal with. But at the end of the day, he's earned the right to have those options spread out in front of the table in front of him. So it's going to be up to him.
Is there a part of you that, obviously, like, he's been talking to us about moving up to 155 for a little bit now and how excited he is, but from a coaching side of things, is there a part of you that's excited to be there with him and help him make this move to 155 and have a crack at this belt? Like, is a part of you excited at the challenge of it, excited at things changing a little bit, and obviously the impact and the history that would mean for Volk and the team if he's able to successfully get 2 belts, 145 and 155?
Boys, I'm excited and so appreciative of being a part of Volk's journey. And the only reason I'm a part of it is because of Joe Lopez and a lot of coaches in Joe's position. When they have a champion, they start to shut themselves down and they don't let other people in. They don't take advice and they start to get very narrow-minded. And Joe's open-minded and he's let people like me and people and our team come in and try to help Alex, and I'm very appreciative. And if I can be a part of his journey to lightweight, then again, like, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to do my best for Joe. I'm going to do my best for Alex, and like, we're just one big team, and Freestyle MMA, Joe Lopez, CKB, we consider ourselves the same team. It's a synergy that I've never seen between two teams, and I love it.
Before we move on to the other big fight, I just got to ask, I saw in the last episode of Israel Adesanya's amazing show, All Access, where people get to go in and sort of check out what's going on during fight week on the Freestyle Bender YouTube channel that everybody needs to subscribe to. I saw that, Joe did the speech to the team, and then you did one via video. It was a very powerful speech, and you kind of had a video montage sort of tell the boys how important it is to stay focused and sort of keep them in the right place mentally. But I'm just wondering, where were you? What was going on? Because you weren't able to be with the team a day or so before the fights. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we had another fighter fighting in Atlanta in the PFL, Jenna Fabian,
Mm-hmm.
and she was fighting on Friday night. And unfortunately, Atlanta's like 4 hours away. So I flew at 6 a.m. for that fight, and then I came back on the red eye. I came back the same day. So the team dinner that we have every Friday after the weigh-ins are done and the boys can eat proper food for the first time, that's like that's an important part of our build-up, of our routine. It's when we all get together. You know, only the immediate team, only the ones that have been in battle with us, have been, you know, blood, sweat, and tears through the camp. The ones that are going to lead us into battle, the ones that are going to follow us into battle, only those guys are there. And we just eat and break bread together, and we just appreciate each other, and we just we get ourselves ready because we know the next day we're going into battle, and this is going to be our last time to break bread together. And the next day we're prepared to do whatever it takes to get those wins, and that's the feeling that dinner has, and we love it. It's an important part of what we do as a team during that week. And I wasn't able to make it, but I felt like I needed to say my piece and just let the boys know that I would love to be there, but duty calls. And that was what that video is about. It was just about keeping everybody together and keeping our team unity and our team morale high.
How did you? Well, it was an incredible video and very, very, touching. How did you feel watching Israel, being brought to tears over something like that? And it makes me wonder, like, how often do you say something like this to the guys?
To be honest, boys, I don't know how you guys even know about this, but obviously people had their phones out and were recording it. So I don't know what you're watching. I haven't seen Israel in tears, but these days, I don't mind. You guys people are allowed to watch it. It's not like if we were hiding secrets or anything, but yeah, look, man, I haven't seen all those people reacting to it, but we're like, I hope people understand who we are, and we're a team, and we're a true team. We're a true team. We're a true family. When we win, we all win. When we lose, we all lose. Like team, people throw team around like all the time. Like they throw family around all the time. But like a lot of those people that throw it around all the time, it has no substance. It has no meaning behind it. It's just a rhetoric that they've heard that they just throw around amongst themselves because they think it's the right thing to do. But look, what we've created in our little part of the world is the true essence of what a team and a family is, and that's why we do the things that we do, and that's why we're able to be successful. That's why people like Israel and Volk and Brad are so appreciative of the team, because they're such an important part of getting us to where we need to be. Without them, there's nothing. There's none of this without the team as a one cohesive group. Yeah.
Man, I thought it was a beautiful moment. It's good to see, even Israel. I think people like that, pulling the curtain back, and Israel's, not afraid to sort of be in that vulnerable sort of state and to show the world. And it's just a beautiful moment to see the team and how close you guys are and how much it means, just to hear these things, from his own coach and to react that way. I love seeing it, man. I'm glad somebody recorded it. But just quickly, before we talk about Israel, I've got one last thing that I want to sort of end on Volk, and that is, he felt very disrespected going into the fight, and probably for a long time. And it's something that we've kind of echoed as well, about how people need to put respect on Volk's name. After such a performance, after such a win, people discussing him as, arguably the greatest fighter on the whole roster, maybe even better pound for pound than Kamaru Usman. What do you want the big takeaway to be as far as Alex Volkanovski is concerned now? What do you want people to take away from this fight, if there was one thing?
That he's the best. He's the best on the planet. He was the best after the first fight with Max. Max was the best, and then we beat him. And then people still didn't, there was still some doubters. And then the second fight was close, but we still won. And then there was still some doubters. I was never in doubt. I knew Alex was the better fighter from the start. I didn't think we had to have the second fight. I definitely didn't think we needed the third fight to prove that. Now, just like, it's not important to me. It's not important to me. But it does get important to Alex, and it does get important to the team. Recognize what he is. He's the best featherweight in the world. He's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world right now. And if you can't see that, then you I'm not going to insult you. I'm just going to say then you need to learn more about the sport and understand the sport better and just get into the sport more. But that's what I would like people to walk away from this performance with. That's the best fighter on the planet at this very moment. And you can't argue with that.
And then you add the fact that he's one of the nicest dudes, still the same guy that we met when he first got into the UFC, still good with the fans, still fights regularly, which we don't see a lot with the pound fighters, and is a guy that only comes around ever so often, and fans get a chance to watch him fight that regularly, that many times, those kinds of performances. It's a rarity in combat sports, I'll tell you. And out of all the things that I mentioned, not very often you get a guy that will walk down the street and remember your name if he met you back in the day and say hi and shake everybody's hand. So he's definitely a rarity. Okay, let's talk about the main event, though, Huge. Of course, Israel put on a dominant performance over Jared Cannonier. But I got to ask you, man, what did you think of the fight itself? And did Jared bring anything that you didn't expect to the table?
No, we anticipated most of what Jared did, to be honest. It's funny, man, because I always have an expectation that because the stakes are so high, because you've worked your whole career for this opportunity, you're gonna kind of recklessly, with reckless abandon, kind of press the action a lot. But I'm not giving, maybe I'm not giving Israel enough credit. Israel punches hard and punches sharp, and those two things together, I don't want to, I used to spar him, it was only a few years ago I was sparring the guy, and maybe I forgot how much, how difficult it is to be on the end of those things. But yeah, I maybe expected Cannonier to just make himself more vulnerable. But that's easy for me to say. I'm not on the end of Israel's range and on the end of Israel's punches, and Israel's not making me miss and making me feel vulnerable. So, that's the only thing that I expected Cannonier to maybe just put himself on the line a little bit more. I thought, but easier said than done. Everything else we kind of anticipated.
Do you feel like that was part of the reason why the fight played out the way that it did? And what do you think of the criticism? Because one of the things that people sort of felt, and I know Israel was very quick to shut that down and say, look, the people don't understand the intricacies, et cetera, et cetera. But, some of the people were criticizing the fight. What do you make of the overall criticism? What do you think maybe is not being talked about or hasn't been picked up on?
What's the criticism of the main criticism that it wasn't like an action-packed filled fight?
Correct, yeah. I'm not saying that's my criticism, but I'm just saying that's what people are saying.
Yeah. I don't know. Look, I'm not saying that. I'm not going to say Cannonier is to blame. Look, in a fight, there's two people in a fight, right? And between those two people, they figure out. They figure out amongst themselves how this fight's going to play out. They have these interactions, they have these, they have this feeling, they have this vibe between each other, and they figure out how the fight's going to play out. Can't blame Cannonier and you can't blame Israel, but you can blame Cannonier and you can blame Israel. There's two people in the fight. But what do you? I mean, I'm not susceptible to your average Joe's criticism. I don't care. There's 0.5% of people that actually know what they're talking about when it comes to this sport. That means the majority of people don't know anything about the sport. They just want to. They have a very rudimentary understanding of the sport, and they just want to see what in their mind they think a fight should look like, and it should look like just a Gaethje or Michael Chandler like fighting each other, which is like, that's great, like it's great entertainment, but I mean, my guys want to have kids and they want to enjoy the rest of their life, and like they will get the spectacular knockouts and they will have the spectacular fights, but they will practice the art of hitting and not getting hit, and they'll do that because they want to live a long, happy, and successful life. And if you don't believe me, let's have a look at certain fighters 10 or 15 years from now, and let's have a look at some of my guys, and the proof will be in the pudding then.
Yeah, and Israel mentioned how monumental it was for him to see you and your brilliant game plan versus John Crouch and his. It was a great pickup, like two great teams sort of going up against each other, a lot of respect between everybody. How aware were you of this sort of going into the fight, and how important was it for you to be able to sort of come up with a great game plan? Obviously, you're always coming up with great game plans, but how aware were you that, hey, we've got John Crouch on the other side here, and he's a mastermind as well, trying to come up with a way to sort of solve this puzzle too?
Yeah, I mean, I love coming up against the best coaches and the best teams in the world. Like, I love it. Like, it's just like fighting. Like, I don't get to fight anymore. I want to, but I don't get to fight anymore. I'm getting a bit on. It's just like fighting, but you're doing it with your intellect. You're going up against the other team's intellect, and you're doing battle, and you're controlling your fighter in the ring. And I love coming up against teams like John Crouch is one of the best coaches in the sport. Been involved in this sport in the UFC at this level a lot longer than I have, and they had a brilliant plan. As you could see, they had a brilliant plan. Look, I felt that we both called for the same thing. We both, in a very basic, without getting too much into it, we were both calling for the same thing in the last few rounds, and we were both asking our fighter to go out and get this and take this and do more than the other person, take this round. And he asked his fighter to do it, and I asked my fighters to do it. We knew the rounds were up for grabs, and I just felt like my fighter took that instruction a little better and just did that little bit more to make those few rounds at the end swing in his favor. And Jared tried his best to do it, and that's what his corner instructed him. But we were just able to get that across yesterday night. So yeah, I enjoyed having a battle with that brilliant team. And look, we'll do battle plenty of times again. That's what we do. This is what we do, man. We go into battle for our guys, and this is our life.
I think it was cool. I think, two brilliant minds, and I think it was really cool for Israel to kind of shout that out and just make it known for everybody, and obviously just showing a lot of respect too in the process. But he did mention that he had an off night. Israel's always been very he's his own biggest critic in a lot of ways. What do you make of the notion that he had an off night, and what did you say to him? Because he mentioned, I think, afterwards how you kind of reassured him that, like, look, everybody who knows you knows that you had an off night. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I felt he was having an off night in the corner, and because obviously I've had more than 100 fights with him, so I know when things are, I know when things are flowing. I know when him, myself, and the coaches, I know when we're like working together and we're on the same wavelength, and he's able to execute what we're seeing, and he's able to translate what we're seeing. He's seeing the same thing. We didn't have one of those nights. We had the kind of night where we felt we were seeing things in the corner and we just couldn't get the message across for him, that decisive message across, that he could see the same thing as we were seeing and he could execute it. We changed our tact a few times to see if we could bring our thoughts together in line. I changed my messaging. I basically said the same thing, but I said it in a different manner, used some different descriptive words, but actually saying the same thing, because sometimes that can trigger, that triggers it a little bit better. But we couldn't find what we wanted consistently. And there were spurts when he was doing what we wanted him to do, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant. It was, but he fell back into what we didn't want him to do, and it was just he was waiting a little bit too much. One of our big themes for this fight was forget about this waiting. Let's create. Let's create. Let's create. And this is what you do. This is what you can do to create. Do this. Do this. Doesn't matter if you just fire the shot, keep yourself safe. A block shot doesn't mean anything. All a block shot means is further down the line, it's going to open the door for something else. He blocks that, doesn't matter. Throw it anyway. It's going to open something else. Everything that misses or gets blocked is just an opportunity that you use later down the line. And I don't know. Look, my analysis of that fight is he had a slightly off night. Look, man, when you have an off night and you can beat one of the best fighters in the world, without a doubt, then who are you? Who are you? You're the champ. You're one of the best in the world. Have an off night and you can still do that. That's what champions are made of. That's a true champion.
Yeah, and I mean, Jared Cannonier as well, and his team brought it too, and we saw how dominating the performance was from Israel. So definitely another win for the record books. What about the entrance though, Coach? I don't know if you're much of a WWE fan. How did this come? I want to know, what was your reaction when you first found out about this entrance, the hat, the urn, the whole Undertaker style thing? Like, I'll be honest, like me and Casper were big WWE. We were big WWE fans growing up back in the day. So we're like, whoa, the Undertaker, that's crazy. But I was also thinking, I wonder what the team's thinking about this, the guys that never really kind of watched this coming up.
Well, I only knew a couple of days, literally a day or two before it. And I was like, look, man, that's your thing. You do your thing.
Did you know who the Undertaker was?
I know who the Undertaker is, but I don't. Yeah.
He's the taker of souls, Huge.
Yeah.
A dead man walking.
Yeah. So normally I don't carry the bucket out. But then Andre gave me the bucket as we were walking out. I was like, why are you giving me the bucket? He said, because I'm gonna carry the urn. Israel's gonna pass me the urn. I was like, the whole thing was just confusing me. I was like, well, what's the urn? Why is there an urn here? But the urn, I just kind of figured it out on the go. I'm like, the urn obviously has got Jared's ashes in it, I'm guessing, or it's meant to be for Jared's ashes. I don't know. The whole thing's just confusing for me. They put so much smoke in the tunnel, I had to stop walking because I was going to trip up. You couldn't see anything. And I don't know, we got there in the end. It was good. I hope people enjoyed it.
Did you have the urn in the after party? Like, I feel like people were drinking things out of it. It was like a party fit. And also, did Vince McMahon or Triple H or any of those guys come backstage to congratulate you guys? Because I'm guessing they would have had to approve the entrance before it happened.
Yeah, good question. I tell you what, boys. Like, the honest truth is, my job is get you to the final bell, and then after the decision read, I'm out. I'm done, mate. I'm trying to leave that venue. I'm trying to have nothing to do with anything. I'm trying to just chill. So I don't know who came backstage, but they definitely got permission. And look, I don't look. What do you reckon, boys? Did it go well? Are people talking about it?
Yeah, it was.
I think it was brilliant. I was like, you know what's smart about this, right? Is if you do this, then all the wrestling media have to cover you, basically, right? Even if they weren't planning to, they got to be like, hey, UFC fighter, UFC champion, came out to the Undertaker. I think it was brilliant from a marketing perspective, and I don't think Israel does that stuff because he's like, oh, there's going to be great marketing. He just enjoys it, you know. It's like I don't know, living the dream. But I also love the contrast of like how much it means to him and how special it is to him, and how you're just like, whatever, kind of unimpressed.
Vince McMahon coming up to you after the fight, you're like, sorry, buddy, I'm not interested. I gotta go. Gotta go. Who is this man trying to speak to me?
He definitely doesn't. Obviously, he definitely doesn't doing it for the marketing, because he plays that stupid song when he does Spider.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow!
Which I think, like, why are you putting on the slowest song that makes no sense? But man, he gets triggered by it. It motivates him. So that's the song he likes to have during Spider. And all power to him.
Did the Undertaker reach out to you guys afterwards or anything? Because the other thing with this one is, so the Undertaker, he's a very, very sort of protected character in the WWE, and he doesn't let people really do much with him unless you're really like the top of the top. So I'm guessing he would have been a big fan of Israel's before sort of allowing this to happen. Did he congratulate you guys? Maybe give you guys a rest in peace afterwards or something like that?
I'm not sure, but if anything, that was an ode to the Undertaker. Wasn't it? Like for Israel to be using, you know, on the biggest sporting event that weekend going on, one of the biggest sporting events of the year for Israel to choose the Undertakers. I hope he sees it that it was a respectful kind of ode to the Undertaker and the work that he's done in his industry. So I don't know what his reaction was, but I hope he appreciated it.
I think he'll love it. He's a massive MMA fan. He's been at a bunch of UFC events, and he wore the Valet Tudo gloves like in his later on in his career. Cool. So I think he will be absolutely chuffed. Okay, just quickly before we talk Alex Pereira and what's next, a quick message to you. Yeah, you got Bush? I mean, you definitely do if you haven't tried the best products from our good friends at Manscaped, sponsor of the UFC as well, and Submission Radio. Taking control of your bush is extremely important. These products are so good, you're going to be showing pride in your new bush-free yard with the Lawnmower 4.0, the pound-for-pound greatest grooming tool in the world with its 7,000 RPM motor. Skin-safe technology, so you never have to worry about shaving one of your nuts off. It's got a whole bunch of guards, so you can do different lengths and textures. I personally use it to shave my head and my beard. They've also got the LED light. It is waterproof, so you can just smash it out in the shower, nice and quick. Nobody has time to waste, and then you chuck it on the wireless charging dock and just move on with your life. And the Performance Package 4.0, which, by the way, makes for a phenomenal gift if someone's birthday or special occasion is coming out. The Performance Package 4.0 comes with also the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, also the Crop Preserver ball deodorant, and the Crop Reviver spray on testy toner, so that your boys down there that are now freshly shaven can smell phenomenal for the whole world to enjoy. Also, the Performance Package 4.0 comes with some underwear and the Shed travel bag. Doesn't get any better, especially when you include the discount. Isn't that right, Dennis?
Yeah, that's right, man. And there's nothing wrong with getting a couple of extra inches downtown. So with Manscaped right now, you guys could get a phenomenal discount, 20% off and free shipping right now. And you get to support this show, by the way, by using the code word submission. Use it today. And, it's time to manscape that life, get rid of that bush, and get a couple of extra inches thanks to Manscaped. And Cass, this past weekend, people making some crazy money off UFC 276, and no doubt about it, a lot of it was made through our friends at MyBookie. You guys can double your first deposit when you sign up with the code word submission now. And this weekend, we've got a banger for you. You got RDA versus Rafael Fiziev. RDA at a plus 170. Fiziev minus 210. Who are you going to lean towards in that one? So many great bets to be made, so much money to be made at our friends at MyBookie. Sign up today with a code word submission and double that first deposit.
Yeah, and just super quick, this past press conference with Israel and Sean Strickland, Israel obviously copping some flack from Sean for watching cartoon porn and hentai, which, hey man, in the words of Jerry Seinfeld, not there's anything wrong with that. In fact, some of the most influential people might be hentai connoisseurs, I'm just saying. But hey, if you're going to watch that kind of stuff, you need a good VPN so that your internet service provider doesn't know what you're watching. You want to be on dodgy streaming sites? Go ahead, just protect yourself, because incognito mode doesn't do anything. And if your internet service provider knows what you're doing, you're going to get stern letters from them, and the whole world is going to know. We live in a world where data is everything, and companies want your data so they can do a whole bunch of things and use it against you. Block out all those companies, get NordVPN. Also, it's great for geo-blocking. Maybe you want to watch content on BT Sport, or maybe, I don't know, Netflix Canada or Netflix UK has a show that you want to watch, but you can't because you're stuck in Australia or Germany or the US or whatever. With one click of a button, your browser will now think, and your computer will now think, that you're in that country and give you access to a plethora of other shows that you normally wouldn't be able to watch. And the same works for any other streaming service. NordVPN protecting you also with their real-time threat protection, and they even give you, if you go on the complete package, you get a terabyte of cloud storage, which is better than pretty much any other cloud service offering, and the added benefits of a VPN. Can't pass it up. Can't recommend it enough. Isn't that right, Dennis?
Yeah, man. And grab the deal today by going to nordvpn.com/submission. Or, of course, go to click the link in the description below and go there right now. Get a huge discount, up to 69% off your plan, plus 1 month additional for free. And the thing about Nord is it's completely risk-free. They know you're going to love it, and they give you a 30-day money-back guarantee. Jump on it now.
Oh, and if you're watching stuff, no speed throttling, no buffering issues like with other VPNs. I have NordVPN running in the background at all times, completely protected, videos unaffected. That's just the way I like it. Okay, but just quickly, Huge, we got to ask, obviously, as far as what's next. How do you feel about Israel wanting Alex Pereira next, especially after last time we spoke, you made it pretty clear that, you felt that Alex needed to do more to deserve the title shot, and you didn't seem very fazed whether Israel ever fought Alex ever again. So how do you feel now that that's probably going to be the next one?
Look, again, like I think I made it clear, that was my opinion. Look, the UFC are brilliant at what they do. They're brilliant at marketing. They've seen a story there, and pushed this guy like to a position that he, like, who's going to argue with me that he doesn't deserve? How can like, it's ridiculous that he's being put in a position to basically go for the title off the back of 2 wins over Israel in a completely different sport after beating just Sean Strickland. I mean, that's crazy. But and also, as much as a purist like me thinks that's crazy, I also understand how the UFC machine works, and they see a marketable fight there, and they're doing what they need to do. They need to get Pereira to Israel as fast as they can, because obviously Pereira has a lot of vulnerabilities, and if they wait too long, those vulnerabilities will get exposed, and then there's no fight. So you've got to push him towards Israel as fast as you can before any of those vulnerabilities are exposed. So that looks like it's the next fight. Israel would love that fight. I think that's what I think he wants the fight. So, I mean, Israel's the champ. He's the man that's put himself in in a position where he can choose what he wants to do. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's the next fight.
Yeah, it's like you mentioned, like the storylines there, Israel's basically beaten most of the guys in the division. And there is a little bit of WWE to the UFC where they sort of try to build these narratives and, build these shows up and make these little clips and countdowns. But I'm just wondering, like, despite Alex obviously having the 2 wins over Israel in kickboxing, and by the way, those are very close fights, what do you make of him as a challenge to Israel in MMA? Because at the end of the day, this is MMA. This isn't just kickboxing. It's a completely different sport compared to what they fought in previously.
Look, I mean, I see what I always see. I see Israel getting a victory over that opponent. It's got nothing to do with that it's a new sport. I mean, I believe Israel beat him the first time. And Israel, if you like Israel is always harping on about, if you watch the second fight, Israel was beating him handedly the second fight.
Yeah.
So, and And at the end, that doesn't matter. You can win 99% of the fight, and if you get knocked out at the end, then you lost. Like at the end, that doesn't matter. But that's a reflection of what level, to me, the two guys are comparatively. And so if they fight again, like, look, it is what it is. If that's what the UFC want, if that's what the UFC push, that's what Israel said. If that's what Israel wants, then I'm very comfortable with that fight. And man, it'll be a hell of a fight. Pereira's a hell of a fighter. He's one of the best in the world at what he does. He's got a lot of vulnerabilities, but he has something that not many fighters have, and he has that ability to turn your lights off in the blink of an eye, and it's a rare gift. But my man's had 100 fights, and he's dealt with that. He's dealt with people like that, so many times. And one thing to have the gift, it's another thing to be able to use that gift against certain opponents. And we obviously are very confident that we'll be able to win that fight.
Yeah, and I think when people talk about that fight, they go, like you mentioned, there's so many openings there to beat Pereira. Obviously, you guys did so well against him in kickboxing, and there were, very, very close fights. So a part of you going into that fight would probably be like, okay, like we can just beat him in the area that he's best in to sort of show the world what's going on. But then I'm sure a part of you is also like, well, Israel has a very, very complete grappling skill set that he takes in there that he hasn't had a chance to show off as often. He's got subs. I'm sure he's got very nice takedowns that we don't really get to see as much as you guys do in training. How tempting would it be just to quickly end this fight, take him down and submit him, like a lot of people think could happen as well?
Yeah, I mean that's an option. I mean, I don't think Israel has to do that.
Yeah.
Probably with our A game plan. Like you can look at the other fights, you can clearly see that it doesn't have to be our plan. It's probably it's with as much bias as I can try and remove. Like I think Israel's the better, fast career fighter on the feet. So it wouldn't be plan A, but Israel, like you don't go to plan B. You don't go to plan B if plan A is always working. No one's better than you at your plan A, and no one's able to like counter it or do something with it, then you don't go to it. But Israel has years and years and years of grappling and wrestling.
Yeah.
It
would be exciting to see it. I won't lie, Coach. It would be also exciting to see that.
It'd be super exciting, but we wouldn't. Yeah. When my team thinks that we're much better in a particular aspect of the sport, we're not going to take it somewhere else. Like we're confident in Israel's ability to take this fight wherever we need to.
Just lastly, and then I promise to let you go. You obviously told us last time when we were talking about Sean Strickland that he'd make sense for Israel's next fight in 8 weeks. I'm just curious, why so soon? And does the same apply for Alex now? Because that will be UFC 279.
Yeah, look, if Israel wants to go again, he can go again. There's a few things that need to happen for that. And obviously the main one is Israel's injuries. I saw him briefly at the after party, so I don't know what injuries he's got. I heard he's got a couple of some bad bumps and bruises on his legs. So it's like I said, it's completely up to him. Sean Strickland fumbled the bag. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, come on, man. Like, that I thought was the fight, but he fumbled the bag. Like, I don't want to talk too much on their fight, and it went wrong. But look, like, did he think he wasn't fighting one of the best strikers in the world that can take you out if you stand in front of him? Did he, like, your arrogance can get you in trouble? Like, yeah, I recognize when people come from another sport what they are and give them their due respect. That's like, yeah, he fumbled the bag, but all power to him. I hope he gets back in a position where Israel can fight him, because I know that's a fight that Israel really wants. So all the best to Sean. And yeah.
Well, man, I can't wait to see what's next for everybody from the team. But, of course, we've got Kai Kara France stepping up next. We can't wait to see what happens there. But for now, congratulations is due on another spectacular fight week, and this one a historic one with International Fight Week having the Anzac takeover. We also want to, pass on thoughts to Brad. Hope he's doing well after his fight with Jalen Turner, and hopefully we see him back in there soon as well. But for now, guys, make sure to follow the team at City Kickboxing and Instagram and Facebook. And, even if the mainstream media outlets aren't saying it, we'll say it here. Absolutely history-breaking stuff that won't be forgotten and is etched in the history books forever. It's something that we're going to look back for a really, really long time and be like, wow, can't believe that the Anzacs were able to make this kind of a splash on the fight game at International Fight Week the way that we have. And it's all thanks to this man right here, Eugene Bareman and their team at City Kickboxing. Make sure to follow them. Thank you so much for joining us, Coach.
And still, baby. Thanks, boys.